Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Witty Writers Show on this beautiful Saturday. I'm Beth Worsdell, author of sci-fi and fantasy fiction, and I'm so excited because today I have with me James Breakwell. Hello, James.
Hi, how are you doing?
Oh, crikey, Claire Birkin is already popped up there. She says, hello, both of you. Hello to you, Claire. We've also got Francisco says, hi, James. Hi, Beth. Thank you, my darling. Look at these. Look, they're all popping up. Look.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It is.
A lot of engagement on here. That's pretty impressive.
This is why I love doing the live shows, James, because it's so nice for readers and authors to be able to engage with my guests and actually, discover more about you and get to know everyone a bit better. So it's fantastic. Donna says, hi, both. We've also got, I'm going to run through these really quickly, James, because we've got loads of them coming through. Heather says hello, and so does Janice. Says, hi, James, I read your book.
You're my favorite kind of person right there. Thank you so much, Janice. That's what I love to hear.
And Janice is actually in Canada. James says, one James saying hello to another.
How's it going, James? James to James. I love it.
Exactly. It's a good name. But, funnily enough, my husband is Ian James. And my son is Harry James. So it's a good name. It's quite regal, I have to say.
I'm not going to complain about it. I'm okay with it.
We've also got JR Byers saying, hello, darlings. She's as friendly as I am. Look, can you tell? And Kathy says, hello from Hatfield, MA. Take a moment to enjoy the fact a McCoy lives in a town called Hatfield. That is not lost on us, Kathy, I have to say. We've also got Pamela says, hi, Beth and James. We've got Josephine. We've also got my partner in crime as well, James, called Autumn Bardo, who does the Write Better Author Smarter group with me and many other projects. She's absolutely fabulous. I'm loving the headshot, by the way, Autumn. Woo. And James, we did James. There we go. We're caught up for now.
All right.
Fantastic. James, I have been so excited because, my gosh, your writing journey has been absolutely amazing. And you are one of the few success stories that has unraveled and exploded literally completely virally. And I think it's super important that authors know that it can be done. You blow my mind because you're multi-talented. Tell us, what was you doing before everything exploded?
So, do you hear my dog now? Everything in the house is freaking out, of course. These live interviews, they're always a crapshoot for me. Got 2 pigs, a dog, and 4 kids in the house. I have no idea what he's so excited about. I think he's stumped by the stairs. But so before I got into this, so I was in college and I started working at a newspaper full time while I was there, got out and worked at a newspaper for about a year. And it was very much not for me. I thought I was going to take that newspaper job and become the next Dave Barry. And it turns out I was just the guy showing up at meetings where people were angry about stuff. And people are angry about a lot of things. And for a guy who wanted to get into comedy writing, spending his life at meetings about people who are angry about everything, not the best way to go. So I bailed on that, got a boring cubicle job, and just decided, you know what, rather than writing for a newspaper, I'm going to write on my own. I spent a decade writing for my own blog, couldn't get anybody to read it. And then I thought, all right, let's give this Twitter thing a try. Maybe I can share share links there. If I shared drinks on Twitter, I would have got a lot more followers a lot faster.
It would have been very popular.
I tried to share links there, and then it turned out that you can't just share links. You got to write native jokes. So I started writing jokes just for Twitter, and that's where things really started taking off for me. I started to build an audience. I got better at writing quick, concise jokes, and I built up from there. Finally went viral, got an audience, and from there I parlayed that into a book deal. So I kind of ended up where I wanted to, but I got there in a very roundabout way. But the important thing is I got there. That's they say it's not the destination, it's the journey, but sometimes it is the destination, really.
Do you know, it's amazing, and I love your journey and your story so much. And it's the one thing that I tell the authors that Autumn and I try and help, and my author clients. Nothing goes more viral in shares and positivity than funny stuff. And I've seen it time and time again. Every time I've posted something that's super funny, it's just escalated. And so many more people, especially I think since, you know, the pandemic started and everything, because oh my gosh, goodness knows, so, you know, so many people just need to be made to feel cheerful and have a giggle and have a, you know, be uplifted by posts and stuff like that. I think a lot of the mistakes that many authors, you know, make is posting negative stuff that does no good for anybody. It just brings people down. So I'm all for positive, you know, positive thoughts and vibes and funny stuff, because it makes the world go round.
Yeah, I've gotten the comment over the years, you know, how can you tell jokes at a time like this? Like what better time to tell jokes than a time like this? The time when you want to hear jokes isn't necessarily always, you know, when you're in the best mood. Sometimes it's, you know, those hardest moments of your life. And some of the coolest and most profound experiences I've had as a writer is when readers have connected with me. And, you know, I've had several who said, you know, my wife was going through cancer and chemo, or I was battling it myself. And every day we'd read your tweets and that was what cheered us up. I mean, people in hard moments, they're not looking for more hard moments. They're not looking for more negativity. They're looking for something to brighten their day. And, you know, it's certainly, you know, my days aren't all perfect by any means, but I try to capture 3 or 4 moments a day. You know, here's a quick hit of humor. This is something, even if it's the worst day of my life, I can capture this little 8-second exchange. And this is a bright point. And this is something I can share out there to make the world maybe not quite as bad.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've got 4 children myself.
Oh, okay.
And especially when they hit the teenage years, they go through all these hormonal ups and downs and everything. And, you know, life is hard and, you know, all this sort of stuff you have to deal with, you know, where is me? And one of the things that I've always done, especially with YouTube, is fantastic. And I know you've got a fantastic YouTube channel. But whenever my children have been down or feeling unwell or upset, I've always said, let's go on the couch, have a cuddle, and we'll watch funny animal videos on YouTube. Guaranteed within 2 seconds, we are laughing and crying because there are so many funny videos on there that just uplift your mood. And I don't think a lot of people realize that when you laugh and you're having fun, you release so many endorphins that also make you feel better and healthier. So I think you're literally healing the world with your wit, James.
That's a big responsibility, but you know what? I'll take it. If I can make things just, you know, I kind of started all this for selfish reasons. I didn't start it because I wanted to make the world a better place. I started because this is how I wanted to write, and this is what I wanted to do. And the fact that the side effect of that is I make people happy. I mean, that's just a wonderful thing. At least the side effect of my hobby isn't like pollution or something like that. You know, it's nice to have a good, positive, unintended side effect. So that has been that's what helps me sleep at night.
Yeah, I can understand why. Kathy says this is exactly why we need humor. So she completely agrees. Absolutely, especially at the moment, because it's, you know, everybody's still feeling it. So it's nice to make everyone giggle. Autumn says, I'm also a high school teacher and humor always wins the day. There we go. This is why all our students love her. Now, I don't know how you fit it all in, I've got to say, James, because you're a very hands-on father to your beautiful 4 girls. They are gorgeous. They really, really are. Plus, you've literally popped out a book every year, which is a feat in itself, as well as, you know, being active every day on your social media. I think that's amazing because, I mean, that in itself is a full-time job. Do you ever stop to think sometimes, how am I doing all of this?
You know, I think it's gotten easier over the years. It was a lot harder earlier on, especially when I was building up my Twitter account. For a while there, I was doing 25 tweets a day. I was only sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night. It was a lot. Now that I've kind of built up the following, it's a little bit easier. I've got the routine. I've kind of figured out things I can multitask with. You know, when I'm taking care of my kids or doing that, I'm also, you know, looking for joke material, doing things like that. I've learned to use voice to text. So when I'm out doing other stuff, I can be writing or I can be editing. I can have the text read back to me. So just little tips like that. And I still feel unproductive sometimes, but I think that's just the curse of being a writer and a parent. I think no matter what you do in either of those fields, you always feel like you could have done more. So that part of it never stops.
Yeah. And for you, I mean, obviously you've been doing it for over 10 years. So the fact that social media has become so tech savvy, that must have really helped. I mean, having, being able to link your accounts so you can share across all platforms or go from one to the other, and pre-scheduling posts as well, because that helps greatly. I mean, with me doing the show and having clients and everything else I do, pre-scheduling stuff is a major plus, because I can, get an hour of the day or half an hour of the day, think, okay, I've got that time, and I can then share it for later on or tomorrow or the next day. So I bet you're the same.
Early on, especially when I was doing those 25 jokes a day, like right at the start of my Twitter journey, I scheduled everything and I was rigorous about it. Now I've shifted a little bit because I don't always have everything prepared in advance. Sometimes I'm a little more last minute than I used to be. So I kind of have a couple time slots every day of, okay, it's 9 o'clock. Now it's time for that first post, or it's 8 o'clock. It's time to do the webcomic. It's noon. It's time to share the webcomic. So I kind of structured out more that way. I wish I could get back to scheduling it all the time. Scheduling is an awesome, powerful tool, and it definitely makes you more productive. But my procrastination, I think, has gotten the best of me recently. So I'm going more live than I used to, or perhaps more than I should.
I think us authors are the worst procrastinators ever. We really are. I think it's terrible. Now, you just mentioned your webcomics, because you've got your webcomics are unbelievably bad, unfridge worthy, and Wombat Dojo. I love these names that you come up with. They're fantastic.
And I finally had to scale back over time. I used to have a lot more things I did, and I've kind of focused in on what actually was leading places. So of the webcomics, I loved making all three. I'm only currently making Unbelievably Bad, and I've made something like 3,000 of them. I do one of those every single day, and it's like a tweet, but a little bit more absurd. The characters are based on the stick figures from the front of bathroom doors. So if you think you can't do a webcomic because you can't draw, don't let that hold you back. I'm the worst artist in the world, and I just use that stick figure art, and it works. The other one's Unfridge Worthy. I used to take drawings from my kids and turn those into comics. Then Wombat Dojo, I had an artist I paired up with. He made some fun characters, and I'm not doing those ones right now. They were fun, they were great, but after a while I thought, you know what, 3 webcomics every single day is a lot. So now I just focus on the one, and that's getting me through at the moment.
Yeah, and they are funny. They are so funny. If you haven't caught them, everybody, you need to follow James on Twitter, and you need to follow Unbelievably Bad, because they are so funny. I crack up because your humor is just brilliant, and I love the fact that you see the humor in day-to-day life with your children and your family. I love that, because I think sometimes it's very easy for parents to be so caught up in everything else. They miss those funny moments, that, those little gems that your children come out with. And I find that such a shame, because they grow up so quick. I've got three children in their 20s now, one just about to turn 18 in November. And it's gone like that. I mean, in the blink of an eye, that it was yesterday that they were babies. And now I've got 2 boys that are over 6 foot who squeeze me rather than hug me. And a daughter who's so ultra professional and capable. She blows my mind. And my youngest is turning into this beautiful young lady who's full of talent and self-doubt. And I'm like, where's the last 20 odd years gone?
The parenting time scale is totally different. Individual days can seem like the longest days of your life, and the nights too, especially when they're babies. Like, oh my gosh, when is this night going to end? And then one day you look up and I've got a baby who's now 11 years old, and it's like, okay, there's been a mistake somewhere. There's no possible way you can be 11, because I'm not old enough to have an 11-year-old. Then you realize you are old enough to have an 11-year-old, and that's a whole nother mind trip on its own.
Now you've got a bit of space between your children, haven't you? So that 11, 7.
It's 11, 9, 7, and 5. So they're all exactly 2 years. The first 2 are 2 years and a day, then 2 years and 2 weeks, and the last one is 17 months. I don't know what happened with that one, but right now they're at the part of the year where they're all spaced out by 2 years.
See, I'm super jealous. We didn't plan on having 4 children at all. I don't know about you. And I literally had the first 3 14 months apart. So I felt like I didn't sleep and was permanently breastfeeding for 5 years. And I remember sat with my friend for a coffee one day, and I swear to God, this is true, James. So I'm breastfeeding one. I'm feeding the other one in a high chair, and I've got one in the potty, and I'm literally pregnant with the next one. And I'm like, I said to my friend, do you know, I think my hair's falling out. And she went, are you bloody surprised?
Man, you did parenting in hard mode there for sure. Now, what was the gap between number 3 and number 4? Did you get more of a break there?
I did. Thank goodness for the Depo-Vera injection, because that's the only thing that worked. Because full-time breastfeeding and the pill doesn't always work, James.
Sometimes those babies, they just want to be born. There's nothing that's going to stop them.
On the plus side, and I'm sure you find this with your girls having 2 years apart, my children are so close, and as they've got older and they've matured, they are even closer, and they would do anything for each other. And they still have their tete-a-tetes, and you know, they annoy each other, you know, even as they get older. The worst bit is the girls, because they like to, I hate to tell you this, James, but they love to take each other's makeup and clothes all the time. So that is the biggest bugbear when you've got girls. But if one was in trouble, oh my gosh, the other one would turn into like a mama bear.
Yeah, that's with having them so close in age, they're each other's best friends and worst enemies, sometimes at the same time, like within the same minute. Like the way it goes back and forth is kind of dramatic. But I'm glad we had them that close together. So my own family, I'm part of a big Catholic family, and I'm the oldest of 7, but I'm 22 years older than my youngest brother. So like, it's like he's in a whole different family. So we've got these 4 nice and close together. So for better or worse, they're stuck together. So they are going to get a whole lot of each other, whether they want it or not.
I know there is a term, isn't there? Frenemies. That's what siblings are. Frenemies. I think I've got that right. Could be wrong.
They would say, and they go back and forth. Sometimes they want nothing more than for their siblings to play with them, and then they want nothing more than for their siblings just go away and not be in their face. And it just you get both extremes all the time, and it flip flops back and forth throughout the day.
Oh no, it's crazy. It's crazy. We've got some more comments. I want to talk about your books in a second, but we've got some more comments. I'm going to put them up. Kathy says, James's stories are the best kind of Me Too. I send stuff to my nieces and nephews who are raising their children. They always have a similar story to tell. Oh, that's so lovely. And I can see why, because honestly, the moment I found you, James, I was sharing you with everybody. My friends and family back in the UK, all my friends and family here. I'm like, you've got to see what this guy's posting. It's awesome. Here's his books.
And that was the most surprising thing of when I started posting this stuff on Twitter. Like, the weirder or more unusual it was, the more likely somebody was to say, oh my gosh, my kid did exactly that today. Like, really? Yours too? And it turns out that everybody's kids are super weird and super funny. And we're not going through this in isolation. And that's what makes it work. We're all in this together.
I agree, especially at the moment when your kids are stuck at home all the time. They come out with even more stuff and getting up to no good. Wendy's just joined us. She says hello to you. And Pamela says, balance is difficult to gain, especially under our current circumstances. What can you do? Yeah. I agree.
And do what you can is kind of a good motto for parenting in all circumstances, no matter how things are going. Your best is your best. It's not somebody else's best. And you just got to do what you can do to get through to bedtime. And that's all you can ask for. You don't have to be the super duper greatest parent in the world. Being an adequate parent is great.
Yeah, and we're all human. That's the thing. Parenting. Nobody prepares you for parenting, do they? You just literally make this stuff up as you go along, because all kids are different.
It's kind of shocking when you go. So you know, and I don't know how things are in the UK. I assume it's similar, but you're in the hospital for those first couple of days after birth, and the nurses fret over you, and they're so controlling, and like, you have to do this and this and that. These are the rules. This is what the baby needs. And then you walk out of the hospital and you're just on your own. Like, wait, what? It's like you go from being micromanaged to like, there's no safety net. There's no guardrails. You are just on your own, and that is it. It's like, holy cow, like walking out of that hospital, I sometimes felt like I was stealing the baby. It's like, am I allowed to do this? Just walk out of there? But yeah, that's it. You've got a baby. It's your responsibility now. It's like, okay, we'll give this a shot.
Do you know, my husband Ian and I had the same thing. We had the same experience when we were driving away from the hospital with our newborn baby son, and we both looked back at the back seat with him in his little car seat, looked at each other, and we're like, shit. We're on our own. I mean, luckily for me, I was the eldest of 4 children, and I was the first grandchild. So I was like the family babysitter on both sides from about the age of 10. I was looking after my nieces and nephews and stuff. So I was actually a lot calmer and less panicked, but the fear on my husband's face was and
the thing you have to remember, though, is that human beings have been around for a long time before parenting books, and we figured it out one way or another. Before chat rooms where everybody was beating up each other about the perfect way to be a parent, before Facebook, like somehow these kids survived to adulthood. You figure if cavemen could figure it out, we probably can too. Is it going to be easy? No. Are you going to be perfect? Absolutely not. But there has not in the history of the world been a single perfect parent or perfect child. Just get your kid to adulthood and you're good to go.
Exactly. That's why I remind my children that I've kept you alive for over 20 years.
It's a pretty good streak.
It's a bit of a miracle, I've got to tell you, because my husband did not marry me for my cooking, James.
It's amazing how self-destructive kids are too. You do what you can to keep them safe, but just the last couple of weeks, we've had 3 black eyes between 2 of my kids. Like, what are you guys doing? Holy cow! They're gonna think we beat you. One of them, she went tumbling down the stairs. There was an inadvertent headbutt. I've lost track of what causes all the injuries. My youngest, my 5-year-old, just lost her thumb. One sister smashed it in the laundry room doors and it turned all black. And just the other day, it finally fell all the way off. It's like, I thought little girls were supposed to be sweet and nice. And like, nothing could be further from the truth. They are rough and tumble and rugged and ready to go.
They are the worst, honestly. I think, it's amazing, isn't it? My youngest daughter, literally for the first 6 years of her life, couldn't twig how to put her hands out in front of her every time she tripped. And she was I miss clumsy me. If somebody's going to hurt themselves or have an accident, it is me. And she is exactly the same. But for 6 years, she would not put her hands down every time she tripped over. So she made her teeth dye, her front ones, but for years until her big adult teeth, she had grey teeth. She was always banging her nose, getting the black eyes, scraping her chin. She looked like we beat her every week.
The crazy thing about kids though is they heal, they bounce back. It's a good thing they're mostly cartilage when they're that age. My now 9-year-old, earlier in the school year, she fell off the monkey bars and broke her arm, which, by the way, those monkey bars are a death trap. Like, I'm not a safety person by any means, but like she was the second kid to break her arm on that set of monkey bars that month. And but she fell and it was like a stress fracture up here. We didn't take her to the hospital right away. We thought, oh, you're fine. It turns out it actually was broken. But the doctor was telling us, like, kids who are a couple of years younger than her, they can have bones broken and bent at 90 degrees and they will heal completely straight. There's that much cartilage in there. It's like, oh wow, there's a bigger margin for error there than I thought. We're gonna be okay.
That is crazy, isn't it? And you're right. One of the worst moments for me was, I'm sure you've done it and many other parents have done it, is when we hold our pet baby's little hands and we're swinging them between our legs. Okay, so I did that with all of mine. I've seen, I was brought up having it done to me when I was little. I've seen loads of parents do it. What I didn't know was that you've got a ring ligament here which move. So we had a lovely day out. I'm swinging Holly between my legs. She's about 5 and I'm like this, swinging her. Next thing you know, she screams out in pain and I'm like, oh, I've broken her arm. I'm distraught. I'm sobbing. She's holding her arm. She can't move it. And I'm panic stricken, feeling like the worst parent in the whole world. Got to the ER. And after an hour wait, we finally got in. And the doctor said, oh, yeah, I know what that is. Click. Next thing you know, she's running around like nothing happened. I'm like, hang on a minute. What's just happened there? And she explained, oh, yeah, we get at least 20 to 30 kids a day coming in, having this ligament reset because it's moved, because parents swing. And I'm thinking, I didn't say it, but I wanted to. I'm like, damn, woman, why aren't you telling these things to us when we actually have the babies so we don't do it?
And I think part of the problem is that kids just have so many unique and unusual ways of hurting themselves that there's just no way to list it all. The only way to baby-proof a house is to just watch how your baby hurts themselves. Be like, okay, guess we're going to put that up because it's going to be weird things you've never thought of. We had one where we put a baby gate at the top of the stairs to keep our kids safe. And my kid, who's now 7, like it was an attractive nuisance for her. Like she went over to the gate more because the gate was there. It made her more interested in the stairs. And one day she flopped against it so hard that she knocked it down the stairs and she slid down on it like it was a surfboard. Like, all right, I guess that clearly did not increase the safety in this house. Maybe we need to rethink the top of the stairs policy.
Oh my God, I know. It is crazy. It is crazy. Honestly, the joys of having children. Christine says, I love all James's content. It makes my day.
Oh, Christine. I love Christine. She comments all the time on my stuff. She's been around a long time.
Oh, I love it. See, there we go. True fans. Suzanne says, just wait until your child turns 30. Oh. Mind blowing.
My kids will never be 30. It can't happen. It's impossible.
Our kids were told they weren't allowed to get married or start dating until they were past 30, but did they listen? No, of course not. That's so funny. I'll tell you, it does make you feel old, though. It really, really does. Autumn says, I have 4 children now grown. It's wonderful now, all worth it. Oh, that is so sweet. And Christine says, I don't want James's girls to get any older. That's because they're so darn cute, James.
And I have the worst memory, and I think it's part of like a parenting survival technique is you just always live in the moment without looking forward or backward. And I think all my kids have always looked like this. And you look at a picture from just like 2 years ago and they're completely different. It's like, who are these children? Where do they come from? Yeah. Where did they go? Yeah, it's shocking how much they change. And you don't realize it when you're with them every day. When you take into people who see them every 6 months or something, they'll tell you, it's like, nope, they're completely different people. It's like, oh no.
It's crazy. And I love the fact that their personalities just change and develop and, traits start coming out. It's the cutest thing ever. Christine says, I've been around since Waffle was born.
I think she was there back when we named her, came up with that fake internet name for her. We had a NCAA style bracket. We had a tournament of names, and Waffle was the winner. And the weird thing is, it suits her personality so well. She very much is a waffle to her core, and I don't know how else to describe it than that. She's very much an individual, very much unstoppable. And I
love it. It's funny how you do get nicknames for your children, isn't it? And it cracks me up. I mean, Harry used to be called the Tank because he was literally like a bull in a china shop, and he was just so beefy, even at a young age. His neck was like twice the thickness of my eldest son.
Oh, wow.
So it's cool. But I want to talk about your books because I absolutely love them, James. They are fantastic. Now, the first book you published was in 2017. It's called Only Dead on the Inside, A Parent's Guide for Surviving the Zombie Apocalypse. And it's combining parental tips and a zombie survival guide.
So they wanted me to just release a book of tweets. It's like, I don't want to do that. That's boring. But I thought, I don't want to write just a regular parenting guide either. So what's more fun than a parenting guide? Well, a parenting guide to surviving the zombie apocalypse. We take something that's already hard and we put it in the most extreme circumstances imaginable. And the weird thing I found through writing that book is being a parent in the zombie apocalypse isn't that different than being a parent any other time. Like parenting under the best of circumstances is pretty tough, and parenting, taking your kids to the grocery store on your own is hard. Taking them there when there's zombies, not that much harder. I think if you can handle it now, you can handle zombies, and if you can handle zombies, you can handle everything.
I completely agree with you. Shopping with children is just a nightmare, full stop, I have to say. Just a little tip that I learned recently, which I wish somebody had told me years ago when mine were little. To get over tantrums when your child sees something that they want, I was suggested get them to take a photograph of themselves with the item they want for later on. Because that way they feel like they've got a little bit of a chance, but give them a week and they've forgotten all about it. But apparently it stops the I want it now moment. And I thought that's brilliant.
There are a lot of parenting tips bouncing around. I've honestly never heard that one before. See, my solution was just to wait till my oldest was old enough to babysit. Now I just leave them all home when I go to the grocery store. I just avoid the situation altogether. But the pictures, man, that would have been a lifesaver when they were a little bit younger.
I know, right? I thought, I love that. So I've been telling everybody, I'm like, okay, next time it happens, do this, see if it works, let me know. I think it's brilliant. Right, now the second book you published, which was 2018, was Bare Minimum Parenting, the ultimate guide to not quite
ruining your child. Yeah.
I struggle to.
Sorry. All my titles are a full paragraph. I could have made that a lot easier.
I love them though. They sum up your book so well, and they are so, the titles are just entertaining. It gives you such a good impression of what your books actually are about. So I love that. And it's something that sticks in your mind as well.
Yeah, my favorite part of that cover is it has a PhD after my name and then it's crossed out. This is all just life experience. We're just winging it and making it up as we go.
But you know what, James? I honestly believe this. You can have somebody who's super highly educated in child psychology and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But unless you've had kids, you have not got a clue. Unless you've been there, done it, got the T-shirt, you've really...
Yeah. I mean, actually doing it is totally different than just thinking about it or doing it in theory. And the thing is, though, the parenting experience, despite the fact that, you know, we have all so much in common, there's so much that's different about every single kid, too. Raising no two kids is the same. I mean, I've got 4 daughters. You think it'd all be pretty much the same. They're all completely different. They take completely different things. And what worked for your kid over there is probably not going to work for my kid over here. So it's, you've really got to give other parents latitude, like all of the latitude. Judging other parents is the worst possible thing you can do. Because I mean, nobody is going out there going, gee, what's the worst thing I can do for their kid? Like if somebody does something, they're doing what they think is best. They're trying. Yeah. So cut them some slack.
Do you know, I agree with you. And I think the best example is when mine were little and I actually slipped a disc in my back. It was so painful. Yeah, not a good time. And my mum, who is my hero, came to help me out because I could barely move without my back feeling like it was going to snap.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, I said, you know, Mum, when it's like dinner time and stuff like that, you know, you can tell the boys, you know, go and sit down for dinner, blah, 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 and tell them what to do. With Holly, you can't. She's just not that type of personality. You know, the moment you say, Holly, go and do, her reaction is, but I don't want to go and do that.
Oh.
That was just her personality trait. She's like, you can't tell me what to do. You know, but if you said to her, Holly, would you mind, darling, helping me by going and sit to the table? She'd be, yes, of course I will. Blah, 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 blah. And she is still that same way now. Her instant reaction with being told what to do is, but I don't want to. But so you're right. You know, you have to change your parenting to individual child because straight away from like 2 and above, their little personalities start coming out, don't they? They
really do. And it comes back to that whole nature versus nurture thing. I think one of the reasons parents freak out so much is they think it's all up to me. Whether my kid is a success or failure is all on me and everything I do. And that's all that matters. And you look at this kid who comes out of the womb with a fully formed personality that's like, oh, they just are how they are sometimes. Maybe it's not all up to me. This is an actual person, an individual going through the world, making their own choices. And the faster you realize that, the easier it is to just chill out a little bit. Realize, you know what, there are a lot of other factors out there. And it's kind of the ultimate expression of narcissism to think you're the only one shaping this kid. I mean, that kid is largely shaping themselves. Yeah. And thank goodness for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus everything else they get influenced by, which, you know, we can only control so much. Okay, excuse me. Now, this title, which is your 3rd book, I absolutely love. And I giggled the moment I read this title. So it's How to Save Your Child from Ostrich Attacks, Accidental Time Travel, and Anything Else That Might Happen on an Average Tuesday. I love that.
I had so much fun writing that book. So it's kind of the same premise as Only Dead on the Inside, where it was parenting in the zombie apocalypse. But rather than just doing one scenario for a whole book, I did 1,000 little scenarios, ostrich attacks, shark attacks, runaway car situations, all sorts of just random stuff that's probably never going to happen, but also totally could happen. And I just had a lot of fun writing that and putting that out there. So every little self-contained chapter has some absurd advice that I think may or may not work. But to be honest, I've never tested it. I've never tested out how to save your child from an alien abduction. But in theory, I think it'll pan out okay if you follow my advice.
There we go. So anybody who tries any of James's tips, let us know if they work, because we'd love to know.
Money back guaranteed if your kid actually does get abducted by aliens.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Do you know, it's funny because you don't realize sometimes you do have to save your children. My youngest boy, Harry, as we were coming out of the school, decided he would literally slip through the parents in front of us straight out into the main road.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh, James, I've never been so terrified in my life. I barged my way through these poor parents, literally barged my way through, ran into the road without even looking, because I didn't care if there was anything coming. All I could think about was getting to Harry, scooped him up in my arms, turned around and got back to the road. And I was shaking literally from head to foot. And he's looking at me as if saying, what? And I didn't know whether to hug him or wring his little neck.
It's funny how quickly those instincts kick in, but it's good to know they're there, because I doubt you had a conscious thought going through your head. You just reacted and you did it. And that's another reason why human beings are so good at surviving. Is as good as our kids are at getting themselves into situations where they get hurt, we're just as good at getting them out of it. And it's good that we found that balancing act, or none of us would have survived.
I know, right? Do you know, it's a miracle. When I look back at the things that I got up to as a child, one, my mum has got the patience of a saint. She's amazing. And two, it's a miracle I'm still here, really. I was never naughty, like, evil bad. But I was always into something, especially because I was such a big tomboy as well. Now, the next book you published, which was 2020, was Prance Like No One's Watching, a guided journal for exploding unicorns. Again, I love the titles. They are so good. Now, I've got to ask, James, because these titles are fantastic. Do you actively seek title feedback from your girls and your wife, or is it just coming from your crazy mind?
It's me and the editors mostly, as we bounce stuff back and forth. I think the kids and the wife, the more they're left out of the process, the better. I bring it up to them when it directly concerns them. It's like, I need your approval before I tell this story, because I don't know if this should be out there. But for the most part, I just put it out there. That one is the first book that has a picture of the whole family in it, though, and it's my first book for kids. It's actually a guided activity journal where it just takes things and says, hey, this is how I go out and find humor in everyday situations. This is how your kid can too. Kids are weird and funny and strange already, and it just helps them harness it and put it down in writing in a way that they might really appreciate a few years down the road. So that's one I had fun making, and it's also one that I loved giving to my own kids so they could go fill it out or destroy it or do whatever else they wanted. At least one of them got torn up by the pigs because it was left on the ground. So they can't survive everything, but they had fun with the book while it lasted.
Goddamn menagerie. I love it. And for those of you watching, if you haven't already got it, please go and buy this book for your kids, because it is fantastic. All the books are brilliant. But I love the fact that you have published one that is, perfect for children, because obviously during the pandemic, we've had so many children being isolated in their homes, getting very low. And this type of book is so engaging and is a great outlet for pouring your emotion out and having fun while you're doing it. So everybody, make sure you get a copy of all of them, basically, because they're all fantastic. We've got some more comments, so I'm going to pop this up and have a look. Okay. Christine says, waffle is a hurricane in the best way. That is so cute.
She really is. She is a force of nature, and the house kind of shakes in her wake.
A little Tasmanian devil. Yes. That's lovely. Kathy says, his stories make me glad I'm an aunt and not a mum. Yeah, because at least you can give them back. Have some fun. Get them all whizzy on candy and then hand them over and go, there you go.
Cool ants are the best. I think everybody can agree with that. You're around just long enough to be fun, but you don't have to do the discipline. I mean, that is the perfect balance. Ants might be the smartest people in the world in this whole parenting game.
I know, right? And just an FYI, never get a sign that says, if mum says no, call 0800 grandma.
Oh.
We had one of those for a little while, and funnily enough, James, it disappeared. I have no knowledge of where it went.
Oh.
James says your titles are better than blurbs. I mean, there's a compliment and a half. Oh my gosh. And Kathy says, my mum's rule in any store was that we never got something if we asked for it.
Oh,
that's a good one. No exceptions. Of course, we figured out that if we didn't ask, how would she know if we wanted it? So mum got a lot of, oh, look, those are my favorite cookies.
that is too funny. She taught you to be passive aggressive. it's funny how those parenting policies can backfire and work at the same time. That is hilarious.
Oh my gosh. I think, do you know what? It's funny how kids figure things out. And I've always worked, even after having the 4 children, I always worked. And I you know what it's like when money's tight, it's all hands on deck. So my hubby used to work during the day and I used to work evenings and at night till 2 in the morning. I look back, I don't know how I did it now. I'm like, but it's amazing how your kids adapt. And I was working one day or one afternoon, and Abby must have been about 4 years old. And she walked up to my husband and she went, Daddy, if you don't take me to the park, I'm going to tell Daddy that you had 2 beers. My husband's mind was just blown. He said, excuse me. So she, calm as you like, she repeated it. I will tell Mum you had 2 beers if you don't take me to the park.
Wow.
But he just thought it was just so funny. And when I came home, I'm like, Abby, you can't say things like that to your dad. He's a grown-up. He can have a couple of beers. My God.
Man, she's blackmailing way above her grade level there. That is impressive.
Well, she was like 4 or 5 years old.
I know. Where does she even learn? I don't know if she learned it from TV or she came up with that on her own. I don't know which would be more disturbing.
Well, she was the youngest of 4, so there was a lot of influence above her. If you saw
That's true. Yeah, she learns all the tactics from the older siblings.
Yeah, but she was picking up and reading my Twilight series from like 7. You know, she's always been like that. But I was a little bit scared at that point, I've got to tell you. Now, your most recent book, which I am reading at the moment, and it is fantastic, I absolutely love it, James, is How to Be a Man, in brackets, whatever that means. Now, I love this book. I love the fact that you started off your book by talking about your relationship with one of your siblings. I love that. And I love how honest and down to earth you are about what it's like to be a man and the constraints that's put on you emotionally and physically in some cases. You know, you're so honest with how being a man is perceived and how wrong it can be and how different it is for men are supposed to be men and women are supposed to be women. What inspired you to write such a down to earth and thought-provoking book?
Well, one of the greatest things about comedy is it really does let you be honest, because if you're not honest, it's not going to be funny. You've got to kind of get to the truth at the heart of the matter. And so I've spent so many books just writing about kids and writing about parenting and all of that. But I had this, this wealth of stories from my own life built up. And I'm like, what if I tell the stories about how I became to be the way I am, the lessons I learned or the lessons I definitely should have learned but didn't? And I kind of encapsulate them. I mean, what's the underlying theme or the overall message of this? And it's like, well, this is what I learned about how to be a man, for better or for worse, right or wrong. These are the lessons I learned. So I put them all together under that central narrative. And it gave me a chance to really get those stories out there and tell them. And some of the stories are hilarious. There's one in there that's pretty serious, but I thought it needed to be told. And it was just a whole different writing experience for me. And I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I got that chance to kind of share that part of my life out there and maybe help some people along the way.
Did it actually feel like an emotional journey as you was writing it? Because you're so honest about your feelings and how things have affected you.
Yeah, I think it was. It was definitely more emotional than some of my other books, especially the one serious chapter. Definitely, that's tucked away a little later in the book. But yeah, anytime so my zombie book, obviously, I don't have any personal experiences with zombies, so I can take a step back for that. Or the book, where I talk about lazy parenting. That one's a little bit personal, but there weren't a whole lot of personal stories. It was kind of more parenting theory than parenting fact. But this one was the one where I really got down to the nuts and bolts of here's the things that actually happened. So I think by necessity, there's another layer of vulnerability there that you have to go through to get that story out. And it was an experience, but I'm glad I did it, and I would do it again. Definitely. I'm glad how it turned out.
It's fantastic, honestly. And I'm so enjoying it. I was hoping to get it finished before I actually got to interview you because I love it so much. But as we was mentioning together before we went live, one of the things about being a hands-on parent is you're juggling being a parent, working, and trying to write and trying to promote yourself. There is just never enough hours in the day.
That's the biggest thing you learn when you get into being an author is that books are more work after they're published than when you're writing them, because the job of promoting those books is never, ever done. It's like, oh, I spent a year writing and editing this book. I'm done. Oh, no. 10 years from now, you're still going to be like, hey, you guys want to buy this book? And it's shameless, but at the same time, if you don't do it, you're never going to make it to that next book. It's all part of the process. If this book doesn't sell, there is no next book. So the work continues. And when you have a family on top of that, you got to work them both in, because if you only sell books and don't deal with your family, you're not going to have a family, and if you only deal with your family, you're not going to have books. So you gotta find room for both.
It is an absolutely fine balance. It really is. Now you're now signed with Trident Media Group, and your agent is the fantastic Mark Gottlieb, who I'm interviewing again on Monday. We're going to be talking about big book ideas. So yeah, if you can tune in for that, that's going to be fantastic. Now, I think it's fantastic that you've been so proactive in promoting yourself, and you've worked so hard. And the author clients that I work with, a lot of them come to me because they do struggle with finding their niche, finding their market. They're writers, but they've got no idea of how to sell themselves or sell their books. They've got no knowledge of marketing, and that's how I help them. But it is really tricky just finding your niche. And I think you have stumbled on a really fantastic niche market, because you're one of the few dads that openly talks about being a parent and how it's been for you and your kids and the journey you've had and the funny stuff that happened. And there's a big niche for that, because it's just exploded for you. I mean, exploding unicorns.
I think you used the right word there, stumbled upon it. I didn't set out to become a parenting blogger or a parenting author, a parenting tweeter, any of that. And it was just through trial and error. My blog back in the day, so I didn't have any readers. I was just writing about everything in my life. And then when I got to Twitter, it's like, what do people respond to? Oh, they respond to stuff about the kids. And gradually I just zeroed in on it. And you're right. That's what people connected to, because everybody's got parents and every parent has kids. And that's the universal thread that ties us all together. So if it hadn't been for Twitter, if I hadn't got those likes and retweets to see where it was at, I might have never found it. I might still be stumbling around out there. So I really am grateful for how Twitter turned out. Yeah.
And also, I think by doing what you've done, you've given other people an opportunity to share their experiences. And I've noticed that with a lot of your tweets, as you said earlier, you will get replies saying, oh my God, my son also stuck a carrot up his nose and we had to go to the ER or whatever. I'm just spitballing here. But it's nice because people like to feel like they're part of something and can share some funny information about themselves, because they feel good sharing it with you, and they enjoy the fact that it's making others smile and giggle. And I think that is huge. So I'm so thrilled that you've just found so much success. I'm going to read some of your most recent tweets because it's so funny. I love them, James. I got to tell you, I'm becoming addicted. It could become. So this is some of your most recent ones. So you said, hold my hand when we cross the street, your 7-year-old. No, you hold my hand. She's the captain now. I love that. It's just they charge, don't they? Sometimes.
They do. It's amazing how quickly they kind of become the leaders of their own little world. And you better just buckle up, because you're not the main character anymore. You're the supporting actor now.
Okay, second one. Your 5-year-old says something mean to her sister, and you tell her, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. Your 5-year-old. But then we'll never talk.
And that one is so true. They are so mean to each other sometimes. It's like, how can these sweet little children, how could that come out of their mouths? And then you hear it, you're like, oh nope, they definitely said it. They definitely have the capacity to use speech for good or for ill. They don't always choose wisely.
They really do. They really do. And kids say the funniest things at the worst times.
Mm-hmm.
They really, really do. And I've had that experience with my kids before now. So I was walking with my youngest to nursery, mm-hmm. and there was this rather large man walking towards us, and I could see my daughter's eyes like getting wider and wider. And I'm thinking, don't say anything, don't say anything. And this guy was huge. I mean, not only was he 6 foot tall plus,
mm-hmm.
he was a giant. He was the size of Hagrid, from Hagrid.
Man.
This guy was massive and just as wide. And literally just as we started passing, my little girl went, did you see the size on him? And I'm like, what? And I knew this guy had heard her. And I'm like, I'm sorry. On another occasion, I was in a public bathroom with my eldest, who was mm-hmm. about 3, and I'm using the restroom, and in one of the cubicles, this lady let out the biggest fart I've heard a woman do. I mean, it was like, I'm not even going to do the noise, but it was loud and it went on forever. And Thomas went, Mum, did you hear that? Oh no! Every woman in this public bathroom, heard him, and I just wanted to die. So I'm in this toilet cubicle and I'm waiting for her to leave. She's waiting for me to leave.
Oh.
Half an hour later, James, we're still waiting for each other to leave. And my husband cracks open the restroom door, like, are you still alive? So embarrassed. Luckily, she stayed until I left because I was just mortified. And as I'm leaving, I'm like, I'm sorry. But children have got no filter, have they? Mm-hmm. I mean, when they're young, they say whatever pops in their mind. And unfortunately, sometimes that is not a good thing.
It's not a good thing unless you've got a Twitter account, and then it's the best thing in the world.
I know, right? I was thinking to myself before we went live, I'm thinking, where was Twitter when mine were little? But I mean, talking over 20 years ago now. Mm-hmm. Facebook had only just started appearing when mine were little. We didn't even have videos on our phones, and phones were only just starting to get small. So, God, that makes me feel so old, actually confessing all that right now. And I'm approaching the big 50 this year. That makes me feel super old. But yeah, I think it's wonderful that you've had all this technology to help you capture these fantastic moments with your children. What do your children make of all this? I mean, are they blown away by the interest in what they say, or are they like, whatever?
I mean, they couldn't care less about Twitter and Facebook. To them, those aren't even real things. To them, the only thing that's real is YouTube. YouTube for them is everything. Like 80% of kids today want to be YouTube stars. And YouTube is my smallest social media channel by far. But it's the only one they care about. So they jostle with each other for their turn to go on there and do stuff with me on YouTube. And the other day we got a new neighbor, and my 7-year-old went up to him and said, my dad's a YouTuber. Like, that's how she introduced me. Like, this is what I do for a living. It's like, no, YouTube is a very small side thing, but all right, I'm a YouTuber now. So you know what? I guess it's better to have one small thing that impresses them than nothing. So I guess I'll go with it.
Do you know, it's so funny, isn't it? Children have such a weird sense of the world. It really, really is, I mean, like you, I mean, I've got three books out, And all my kids, even though they're older, they're like, yeah, that's great, Mum. That's it. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, thanks for that. Thanks for that, children. You know, I remember where you came from. You know what I mean? But they're so wrapped up in their worlds, you know, and their new as adults. I totally get it. You know, I'm only joking. But it's not such a big deal for them because I don't realize all the work that goes into it. Because like you know, I get up at 7 o'clock in the morning. 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to bed till 2 in the morning.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, because I'm doing everything in the house because everybody else is at school at work. I'm doing all the house stuff. I've got author clients that I'm coaching to be able and teaching them how to do things for themselves. I'm doing everything for the show, promoting myself. My kids haven't got a clue, and I'm sure yours haven't either.
And they, you know, about the time they'll realize is when they become parents themselves. I mean, I think that's when it all hits us. It's like, holy cow, my parents went through all of this for all of us, and they didn't kill us. Wow, you gain a whole new appreciation once kids are your problem.
You do. I can't believe the hour is nearly up. It's gone so quick. James, I could talk to you literally all day. You're so fun, so honest. I'm going to quickly pop on a few comments before we click off. Okay, let's have a look. Oh, so Kathy had a little second comment. She said she knew exactly what her mum knew exactly what we were doing, but it was better than listening to whining or tantrums.
Oh.
And I prefer the term persuasive to aggressive. Thank you very much. You've got way with words, Kathy. You really, really do. I love that. James says if the kids get mad, they may stop talking.
I wish. I wish my kids could, you know, express their anger through angry silence. That would be spectacular.
Wouldn't it? Mine never did that either. Let's have a look. Okay, Dominic says, hi, James. I listen to and narrate audiobooks. How much fun was it recording your own books? Oh, good question.
You know what? It's actually kind of nerve-wracking because you spend so much time going over and over and over this book, but then you're sitting there in a studio by yourself. There's an audio engineer looking through glass at you, and you're reading it, and you're like, wait a minute, did I write that? Did I phrase it that way? Like as I'm reading it through for this final time, you're like, man, can I just go change some of this? So that's an interesting experience, but it's a huge honor to be able to narrate your own audiobook. So I've been thrilled that I've been able to do it for each one. And I talk fast enough that every time they would always book me like 2 days, and I would just sit down, one session, knock it all out. It's a long day, but man, you feel like you've accomplished something when it's over. It's like, I read a whole book today. Yes, it was my own book. Yes, I've read it lots of times before, but I read it out loud. That's got to count for something.
Do you know, it's funny because there's something that I'm considering for my sci-fi trilogy, because I get so many, obviously a lot of my readers are American because I'm based in California. So there's, you know, I keep getting these messages saying, please record your audiobooks. We want you to do it because we could listen to you all day. Oh, that's so sweet. So I might have to have a go. We'll see. Theodore says, hi, Beth. And oh, there you go. You need to say hi to James as well, as he's my guest, Theodore.
I get it vicariously through you. I'm okay.
James says, good grief, fast hour. Yes. Oh my gosh, it has. And Donna says, thanks both. That was exactly as brilliant as I expected. Brought one of your already bought one of your books, James.
Yes.
Beth, can you get him back on, please? I will do my best, my darling. I will do my best. And Pamela said, this made my day. Thank you both. That is so lovely. James, thank you so much. You've been the most wonderful guest. It's been so much fun. I keep having to wipe my eyes because when I laugh, I cry.
No.
You know, I have to wipe my eyes. I'm a cry laugher, if there's such thing.
Well, thank you for having me on. I love that technology has gotten to the point that we can connect like this. Because I mean, in the pre-Zoom or pre-Facebook world, I mean, we're not doing this interview. So I think it's great that we can both sit in our homes on a Saturday. I assume it's still Saturday there, and just do this. It's kind of mind-blowing that we've got to this point.
It is awesome. And I would love to have you back again, because I know that you know, you've got more books planned, and I would love to help share and celebrate your new books as they release it. So thank you, James, and we will see you all for the next Witty Writers Show. Bye for now, everybody. Bye, James.
Bye.